So now I've given an overview of what pantheism roughly is, what the definition is, how it feels for me, and how it ties in with my paganism. I'd like to talk just a little bit about the fact that there are various kinds of pantheism, and that the idea itself has now split off into several major subcategories, and people do obviously think different things about it. And I want to kind of discuss where I am maybe on that spectrum as well. But it's just going to be a really short video, which is more for my own sense of vanity and interest in the subject, really, because I know that there are so many different kinds of standpoints out there under the pagan umbrella regarding God, and a great many people that are watching this are not in any way pantheist and maybe don't have that much of an interest in exploring it beyond the basic definition. So when you first start learning about pantheism or dipping your toe in the water, maybe you've worked out that your view is pantheistic, or you're just trying to research it because, like me, you're just obsessed with all things theological and you can't help yourself. You will come across what I like to call the two big daddies. And they are kind of like the two biggest pantheist organisations that represent and cater for the needs of pantheists, the interests of pantheists, and kind of put a voice forward in society for pantheists. First of all, you have the Universal Pantheist Society, which I believe was started in 1975 and prides itself on being the organisation that kind of put forth pantheism as a religion, as a recognised religion. Well, that's what it says on their website, actually, religion. I'm not sure if they meant that, because it's kind of a popular idea in pantheist thought that it's not a religion, it's a standpoint, which then ties healthily in to a religion if that's what you want to do. But yeah, they were the ones that got it documented and put out there that pantheism exists, and that there are quite a few of us about, knocking around in pretty much every culture you can think of. So they do a quarterly magazine, and different members get-togethers and publish things about what's going on with pantheistic thought in the news, in science and in ecology and stuff like that. They are very, very big on the idea that pantheism is a huge umbrella, and that they invite non-judgmentally and wholly all different kinds of pantheists. So they kind of don't promote one specific type. The other big daddy is the World Pantheist Movement, which was started much later by a gentleman called Paul Harrison. The World Pantheist Movement has taken off big style, and I think a lot of people are very attracted to Paul Harrison. He is a big environmentalist, he's a writer, he's published several books, excellent books actually, on environmentalism, on poverty, on hunger in Africa, that kind of thing. He's worked for the UN, for several agencies in the UN. He's very outspoken on human rights, and I think people are attracted to this kind of enigmatic, very forthright guy who wants to do a lot for the world and so on. Other areas of pantheist society feel that Paul Harrison unfortunately has some kind of monopoly, and has become the only spokesperson for pantheism, which they see as unfortunate because it has become quite a vast umbrella we're under, and he doesn't really speak for all of us, and he certainly doesn't speak for me. He is a proponent of naturalistic or scientific pantheism. And when you go to the World Pantheist Movement website, you will see on the drop down that when it goes into the ins and outs of pantheist belief, the only one they really go majorly into is scientific pantheism, because he is in fact a scientific pantheist himself. There are a few things that don't sit particularly well with me in terms of me referring to myself as a scientific pantheist. I wouldn't, for these reasons. I don't have any problem with scientific pantheists whatsoever, because that would be kind of ridiculous to have a dogma and be a pantheist, would be kind of oxymoronic. But yeah, there are a few reasons why I don't really sit well personally with scientific pantheism. The first is, of course, the nature of its name probably determines, obviously, that it believes that God can be recognised and found and believed to exist inside anything that is scientifically proven, finite substance, matter, what we can see, what we know for sure or feel we know for sure, that can be backed up by a lot of empirical evidence. and it completely rejects any idea that you would kind of accept anything that wasn't based on empirical evidence, or that you would suspect that you can feel something running through the cosmos and kind of connect with it intuitively, but it's not proven by science. So, for example, a scientific pantheist would have no belief whatsoever in reincarnation, or that the soul remembers a past life. Anything like that would kind of be considered to be hokum by a scientific pantheist. So basically, scientific or naturalistic pantheism is maybe the kind of pantheism that somebody like Carl Sagan would fall under. I know he never described himself as a pantheist, and I'm not saying that, but if you read some of the stuff he wrote, then it's kind of obvious that he had a pantheist idea inside him. You know, he knew that that everything that was the sum of its parts was to be revered, and he was just fascinated by it and revered it to the extent that it became his divinity. And a lot of people who never directly describe themselves as pantheist have, in their writings and letters, it transpires, kind of profess themselves to be pantheist incidentally. Einstein is another one. So yeah, scientific pantheism is for those guys that love science, love cosmology, have this fascination with everything they're learning, but the fascination kind of turns into something more. It turns into reverence. It's not just straightforward desire for knowledge in an atheistic fashion. The knowledge that's amassed itself becomes divine to them. So it's kind of like that. Which is difficult for me because I have other feelings and there's other stuff going on. Like, for example, I believe in the strength of magical working, so this kind of cancels me out. The other thing I have a problem with naturalistic pantheism, at least from the perspective of Paul Harrison, is that it's very, very tied into environmentalism. And I think, I'm going to do another video in my pantheism series about the link between pantheism and environmentalism, and also about the misconception that pantheism equals environmentalism, which I have a big problem with. I am by no means saying we all need to go and start a forest fire and, build a factory and rip up the Kyoto Treaty or anything like that. But I am saying that I think Paul Harrison's staunchly and overtly environmentalist agenda, which is how I see it, is not synonymous with pantheism. And I don't like the idea that they're going to become one and the same term. And if you look at the World Pantheist Movement Facebook page, which I'm on, you will see that more and more and more the stuff that they're posting, it could just be an environmentalist website. It's very black and white about what's good nature and what's bad nature. And there is a big feeling coming from Paul Harrison's camp that we need to adopt this sense of ecological stewardship over Mother Earth, and that we're killing Mother Earth and this kind of thing. Now, this is not strictly a pantheist viewpoint, but it's a naturalistic pantheist viewpoint, so it's kind of got its footing there, but not in pantheism as a whole. And I'll go into that another time. I can just imagine some pagans watching this tearing their hair out going, "What do you mean you're not an environmentalist? What the hell?" But I will explain all. Okay, so other kinds of pantheism that you'll come across, and there's a lot. There have been a few academic studies done which have listed up to 8 or 9 or 10 separate subcategories of pantheism overall, so I'm not going to bother going into them all. But I would say that I am a monistic pantheist. And monism denotes basically the theory that there is only one type of substance, there is only one kind of energy, one kind of matter, that it's all one and the same, and that consciousness is part of that too. Consciousness comes from that same source energy. I may go into this in more depth another time. And then you have dualistic pantheists who believe that there are 2 kinds of energy, 2 distinct kinds of force at work, and one will be mind or consciousness, and the other will be matter, or what can be experienced with the 5 senses, that kind of thing. And these 2 are dual opposites, but they're components of each other, they need each other, but they run parallel to each other, they're never going to meet. Then you have pluralistic pantheism and so on. So basically, obviously, this just denotes the amount of types of energy that you feel are at work with each other. And then you have classical pantheism, which to me kind of reads a little bit more like panentheism, maybe, I don't know. So we have all these different categories, and I mean, I read about one recently called developmental pantheism, and I read another one recently about a pantheism that was kind of closer to cosmotheism, but kind of a mixture of the two, or the idea that some pantheists are only focused on this planet, some are focused on the whole universe as being part of it, and some are focused on the multiverse theory. So yeah, there's a lot of different stuff going on, you know. Pantheism isn't necessarily where you drop anchor. You do a lot of dancing around to try and find the theory that fits with you, not necessarily so you can associate yourself with it, but just out of interest to see, because so many pantheists think so many different things. The last point I want to make on pantheist subcategories is one that I feel is important, and I don't want to be negative about the descriptors people want to place on themselves, the labels they wish to use, or anything like that, and I'm not naturally that kind of person. And I'm pretty open to every single theological pathway you can imagine. And I just really enjoy that people enjoy thinking about the divine, intellectualising on why and what and when and whatever. But I do have a problem with this idea that I've seen once or twice going around YouTube, that there is such a thing as a pantheistic atheist. This is an oxymoron, a complete oxymoron. Even just talking semantically, there can't be any such thing. Pantheist denotes a belief in God, a belief in divinity. Atheist semantically denotes a lack of belief in God or divinity. So you cannot have a pantheistic atheist. Now, the idea that these pantheistic atheists have is that they really believe in the importance and the beauty of the all, and that makes them pantheistic in their atheism. As far as I'm concerned, no. There is a straightforward line here, and the line is thus: if you are an atheist and you look around you and you think that everything that you see is beautiful and awesome, and even though it's one big happy accident and there's nothing behind it and there's nothing sacred to it, it still fills you with joy and hope and awe and a love of being alive, you're still an atheist. You're a banging atheist that totally gets that this is all awesome and all beautiful and it's for the taking, and to be optimistic about it and to be fascinated by it, to challenge yourself with it. Being an atheist does not necessarily determine that you are jaded or cynical or not in touch with your ability to enjoy existence. Most of my friends are staunchly, flatly atheist. And they all enjoy life. They're spontaneous, they're hedonistic, they're awesome, they have crazy theories and they want to do crazy things with their lives, you know. Being an atheist doesn't mean you have to put yourself in this box of I'm jaded and everything's crap, and if I can't see it in front of me then I don't care about it, and I don't care about it anyway because I'm an atheist, you know. I can understand that atheists that feel this massive sense of awe and oneness and reverence may want to determine themselves as pantheistic atheists. If it's getting to the point in your atheism where you look around and you feel that what you see in front of you is to be revered because it's divinity itself, just drop the atheist label. Pantheism and atheism are parallel lines. They're very closely connected. I feel that pantheism is like atheism's cousin. That's how I feel. I feel they're part of the same family, and I often relate much more to atheists when it comes to discussing life, love and laundry, the meaning of the universe, everything. I relate much more to atheist standpoints than I do to a theist standpoint, because I think pantheism and atheism are very linked. But I think that if you've come to the point where you feel the all itself is divine, or the all itself is God, and there's nothing beyond that, then you have surpassed the atheist label and you are coming into pantheist territory, and you need to just be comfortable with that. You don't need to describe yourself as a pantheistic atheist because, as I said, that's oxymoronic. You're saying I believe in God but I don't. That's what it sounds like to me. So it's kind of weird, and I saw a pantheistic atheist talking about this and it really bugged me, because he said pantheists believe that the all is a manifestation of God, whereas pantheistic atheists believe that the all is everything. No, panentheists believe that the all is a manifestation of God. Pantheists believe the all is God. There is no manifestation of something else omnipotent and transcendental that we can't touch or relate to, but this is its kind of expression of itself on earth or in this realm. No, on earth, in this realm and everything outside of that is all God. So they're mixing up the difference between panentheism and pantheism, and they're trying to say that we see the earth as an expression of God's magnificence. No, we don't. This is God in its magnificence, if you see what I mean. So yeah, pantheistic atheism, I'm not sure on that. And I've noticed it's becoming a bit of a thing, and that's fine if it's what people feel comfortable with, but I personally feel if people really thought about it, they'd realise that they're just probably a little bit scared of shrugging off the atheist label, especially if they are very grounded in science and rationality, and they do not want to be thought of to be some nut job that thinks, you know, that gods exist and angels exist and things like that. I think if they're comfortable within that atheist box, they may, as they start to discover that they feel that everything is divine and they should revere it, and there's energy running through us, and, you know, we're cosmically interlinked. When atheists start having those feelings, I know because I've danced in atheist territory myself, when they start having those feelings, it must be difficult to let go of the label and to admit that actually you do think that there is something to be revered. But I think, you know, it can be done. Pantheistic atheist doesn't make much semantic sense. So you're either one or the other. But, you know, I've got no hate, I've got no malice. I'm just saying, from a grammatically correct standpoint, that those two things can't actually sit with each other. You either do or you don't. Or you're an agnostic, which technically deep down at core level we should all be anyway, because who the hell of us really knows, honestly. I mean, when I talk about God, I'm talking about what I feel, not what I know. I would never say I know, because I don't think anybody does. So yeah, different categories of pantheism, and it can get confusing. If you wanted to do more study, definitely go and do so though, because it is fascinating, and you will come across some awesome people with awesome brains thinking awesome, awe-inspiring, mind-blowing, cranium-destroying thoughts that you will just be able to absorb, and it will like just totally enrich your life. Or don't, it's completely your choice.